Hello everyone, and I am live yet again. It's been kind of back-to-back lives. I had one yesterday, and today I'll also be joined by a different co-host, and we'll be talking about books, writing, and publishing. Of course, everything between. In just a little bit, I'll let this platform go and do its thing and send out notifications that we are up and running, and then I'll keep my eye out for my co-host for today, and we'll get things going. But it's been a whirlwind. I've been back in the States for just over a week, and I'm definitely not caught up with rest or anything. Hello, and that's the honest truth. But thankfully, I've been doing a lot of research and kind of progressing one of my upcoming. It's going to be a duology, another retelling, but this one's going to be based off a Greek myth. So it's been kind of exciting starting a new project and getting things going with that. But also in the meantime, while I'm waiting for my co-host to be alerted that I'm out and up and running, one of the other things I've been doing is I've been going through edits that have been received, obviously, from my editor, for the 14th volume of The Guardian Speaker, which is my Viking dark fantasy, so a retelling of Norse mythology. And so that one's going pretty quickly, and I'm super excited about that fact. I actually it reminds me right now, speaking this loud, that I need to reconnect with her and just make sure we put on the books, time to meet and go over the last few edits between us before I move on to the polishing stage, and then prep the formatting for pre-release, which is really neat because that means I hopefully am still on schedule to release the final 3 novellas before the end of the year. Okay, I see my co-host is up and running, so hopefully he'll see my invite and then we'll get going. But yeah, if my voice sounds scratchy or anything, it is because I've been getting over head cold and again trying to reassess what time zone I'm currently in, and I honestly don't know, it feels like. But that's okay. That's the joys, the pros and cons of traveling, especially traveling all around the world and seeing a lot of things and just getting so inspired about these various places and locations that I was able to go see, which means there may be a lot more fantastical works coming down the line in the next few years, which is absolutely great. At least as an author, I always love having too many ideas versus too few. But yeah, so hopefully everybody's week is starting off strong. Again, I'm kind of bleary-eyed, but hoping I'll pick up speed as it goes through. And like I said, researching for, I don't know, I hate the word research when it comes to many, many things. I think maybe that was, let me see. I see him. Let me see if he saw my invite. Boop. Invite him again. There we go. Pause that thought. See if we can get going. Hello?
Let's see if I can get my camera on.
It's okay. I don't know why, but more often than not, it always automatically goes to your icon. If you ask me how to flip it around, I would never know because I'm always the one sending invites. It feels like, hey, there you go.
Hello, how's everybody?
How are you?
Good, how are you, ma'am? It's good to meet you.
Doing well, and I don't know if you've ever listened to any of my kind of live chats before, but they're pretty casual, conversational. If anybody chimes in with a comment or question pertaining to books, writing, all that kind of stuff, and we'll kind of try to answer and go with the flow, so to speak.
Okay.
But since you're my co-host today, I want you to introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll just go from there.
Yes, ma'am. So I have a copy of my book right here. It's kind of flipped around, but it's a pretty big one. It's about 684 pages. So it's my debut. I write epic fantasy. So this book, Adjutant, is a Victorian-era epic fantasy. It is a standalone, but I do have plans to do 2 more books in the series at least to make it a trilogy. But this one is completely standalone. It took me 1.5 years to write and get finished. So I just write anything fantasy. I took a little bit of a break to work on a historical fiction based on the American Revolution, so I'm doing that right now. Nice. So I just kind of write a lot of fantasy and stuff like that.
I love that. And for a first book, you said 600 plus pages. That is huge accomplishment right there. So, what made you, I love asking this question in general, but particularly for this case, what made you decide not only am I going to sit down and actually write a book, but I'm going to write a huge epic fantasy book? Like that can be intimidating for many people to think of for their first book. So what inspired you to do that?
So I've always loved epic stories. Like, if you have you ever heard of the Wheel of Time?
Yes. I'm
So I
actually
love.
working my way through the Wheel of Time. I'm on number 5, or just finished
Yeah,
over.
no, me too. Hey, they're a struggle. I love them, but they're so long. So I really like the Wheel of Time, and I love Brandon Sanderson's work, his Stormlight Archive, his Mistborn series, and everything like that. And I just love fantasy as a genre. And this book, I was like, well, it's my first book, and I was like, I did an outline for it, and the outline was like 47 pages or something like that. And I was like, well, I'll just keep working on it. And then, so not only is it that much, but there's also 8 main characters that we
That's
follow with. They all have distinct voices. I tried to make them all distinct. It's kind of like a Victorian era heist story. So it
ooh.
kind of, each person has their own important role. So what inspired me was I love like Lord of the Rings because all those 3 books together are like 1,000 pages. I love storytelling, and
Mhm.
this story it just really what's the word I'm looking here for? It really just it felt right to me, and it was one I wanted to tell. And I'm like, well, even though it's a big story and it's something I wanted to tell, I know publishers are looking for really like short stuff right now for new
Mhm.
time authors, but I was like, I love epic fantasy. I want to write a doorstopper fantasy. I'm gonna do that.
Right.
So I just sat down and I treated it like it was my day job. 5 pages a day, 5 to 10 pages, and if I wasn't really feeling that day, at least 3 pages
Mhm.
every single day.
Hey, that's great because there are so many people who I've talked to that finding that motivation or that dedication and being able to carve out in that time so you can sit down to write, be it again 500 words a day to 5 to 10 pages to more. It's something that once you build into your day to day schedule, your plan essentially, it helps, at least for me, I'm a planner, so
Yeah,
it
me
helps
too.
me to like dedicate, say, every day, my work days, I take 2 weekends off. Work
Oh
days,
yes.
sit down and plug out all, whatever my goal is that day, or at least try to achieve close as possible, because some days, like you said, you may not hit that full, 10 page goal, but that's okay. You're still making that time and still making that effort.
Even if it's just a paragraph, those add up. And like, even
Hmm.
if you just do a paragraph or a page a day, that adds up over time. And you'll be like, oh, a year from now, oh, I have a book. Or like, it doesn't matter if you're doing a whole lot, as long as you're consistent. Consistency is key with anything. As long as you're consistent with it and you're working on it as much as you can, and you're putting that time in, you'll get there.
So, with your first work, you have 8 different, you said POV characters in
Yes.
that, in your kind of high style Victorian fantasy, which sounds really, really cool just because of that. But so, can you let me know a little bit about like maybe 1 or 2 of those characters, or all of them? Like, what are their personalities, and what do you want readers to kind of get their feel of right off the bat?
So right off the bat, when you the prologue, we have a prologue which we don't follow any of the main characters in the prologue. The prologue is about 6 pages where we follow a guard who guards the main character and his family.
Hmm.
So I kind of wanted to tell the world from the eyes of not just the main characters, but also like other point of views. So there's probably more than 8 POVs,
Hmm.
because in the second half of the book, the main characters take a step back, so we follow the side characters while they're doing this giant battle. Um, I just kind of wanted to show all aspects of this world, so each character, so we get to see like, okay, so the main characters are doing this, but there's also other stuff going on. There's like, because like there's a class crisis, like how the Industrial Revolution people were uprising because they were overworking and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So we have like that. I'm getting off on a tangent, but so
Okay.
for like the first 8 main characters, they're all kind of integrated because I wanted, so there's 8 different magic systems, so there's 8 different main characters. The magic systems are simple, but I like having one person specializing in one magic system so they can use it in interesting ways to accomplish their goals. So our main character that we focus on the most is Aru Karnal, and he has the ability to manipulate people's emotions. So he can like make you come to his like feel like brave, so he can lead men, so they're braver, or they're afraid, or they're skeptical, or you feel more comfortable. So he can kind of, because he's good with his words, so he can help talk people and kind of get them to come away his round of thinking. You got to be subtle though, because people can tell if they're being manipulated.
Mm-hmm. And I see a question popping in for us saying, I'm new at writing. Do you have any tips? Now, that for me is a very general question, so it's hard to kind of steer. But for someone who's beginning their writing journey, what would be something that you would advise?
What I would advise? I would write something you want to write. Not for the market, not for anybody else. Write something that you really feel would be really fun to write. You don't have to write the next, Sarah J. Maas book. Just write something for yourself, and then work your way up. It doesn't have to be a super big fantasy book like I did. You could write a short story, flash fiction. Just start simple and work your way up, and just have fun. That's the main part. When you're new to writing, don't worry about nothing. You're not published nothing, so you can experiment and you can take your time to have fun. So it's all about having fun. Because if you're not having fun, then it's a little bit harder to write. So just write what you think would be fun. I know this writing advice is write what you know. But I would say that is important, but if you want to write something cool in like a fantasy world you don't know to explore, write what you enjoy, not what you know, but write what you enjoy. That would be my advice.
Hey, that is a great piece of advice, because especially if it ends up becoming something you do want to pursue into publishing or releasing to the world, the editing is going to make you go over it again and again and again and again. And if you don't like that piece of work, it's going to make you feel even that much worse, because editing takes a long time. Now, for me, as just one of my general things, and it's not necessarily on the writing side of things, but anybody who's interested in potentially pursuing a career, a hobby, even so to speak, in writing or publishing as an author, one thing to do right off the bat is find a platform that you're comfortable being on and start talking about the fact that you are interested in becoming a writer, or the fact that you are actively writing, and kind of starting to build a buzz, start making your community, building essentially what they call a platform, build it right away, because then whenever you get to that point of maybe you're self-publishing, or maybe you're going through a track and querying, you have a bunch of supporters that will hopefully turn into readers right off the bat, versus what I did, where I wrote the book, released it, waited around 2 years, and wondered, why won't anybody read my book? It's because I had no idea what to do. I had no platform, no followers, no marketing, no infrastructure. So if you start off just kind of being honest about your writing journey and telling people, hey, I'm beginning. Hello, here I am, and see what happens beyond that. So that's something I wish I did right off the bat. So I always like to advise people that way. Again, not the writing craft side, but other things.
What I did kind of similar to you. I only started marketing like 2 months before the book came out. I did like, oh, look, my book's coming out, like making videos about it. I gave myself some time to build up a following. Mm-hmm. But I never thought like when I was writing a book, like to start like a social media. Because like at first I was like, oh, I'm going to go traditional. But I've gone the self-publishing route since the book is so big and so many pop characters. But it is smart to start a platform, to start talking about it, get friends and you can get like little writing buddies to talk to with. And it's all about having fun. Because if it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it. Exactly. And in some days it's definitely going to be hard. Like writing this book, it took everything I had to get it written. Like some days, like I really don't want to do this, but just sitting down and forcing myself to keep going, then I start having fun, because it's kind of like a full-time job. I've listened to a lot of writers. Joe Abercrombie, he wrote the first Lost series. Brandon Sanderson, of course. George R.R. Martin, like the big. And they always say it's about just sitting down and really just trying to have fun and just committing to it. So I kind of forgot I kind of lost where I was going with that.
No, it's fun, and that's the thing is, like, yes, make sure you write what you enjoy, and I guess on top of that, the fact that write what you enjoy, but come with it like early on, being aware of if you end up writing a trope in intentionally or not. make note of that. So again, when it comes time to do that wonderful thing called marketing, you already know how to pitch your book, because that was I do everything the wrong way first, and I will admit this over and over again. So it's been a journey for me to figure out how to market my books, because I always feel like I'm catching up and like losing the race as I try, but I'm still trying. We keep trying.
Yeah,
And
that's all you do is you keep trying.
exactly. So, okay, so for me, your story kind of reminded me a little bit when you were saying that you went trad because, again, it's hard to do a breakthrough debut book and go big. And you, as an author, want to make sure your work is told the best way possible, and maybe that means you need 8 or more POV characters, and maybe it means you need 600 or 1,000 pages, if that's the way your story makes sense. And I remember a few years ago, I was querying for a new series at the time, and I kept getting rejections because I was pitching for a YA fantasy, but traditional published YA books have a very rigid word count. And I was well beyond that size. And I decided, I'm not willing to cut a third of my book down to make it more marketable in the traditional publishing kind of mindset. So I'm still going to just publish it indie. I've already published some books indie anyways before that, so was pretty comfortable of that process. But you just have to do what's right by your work.
Yes.
And I see a comment coming up saying I have many different ideas, so that's so very far after from each other.
So very far from each other. I know. Sorry. So
I'm half awake because I'm still don't know what time zone I'm in, because I've been out of country for a while. So sorry.
You're good. You're good. I'm like halfway too. I haven't drunk coffee today. I'm like.
Well, I have my coffee fix right here because I need it. Anywho, but yeah, it's nice. It's a good thing to have lots of ideas. So
no, it is. I think every writer has like a bunch of ideas. The thing is, the hard part is wrangling them all together and not letting them run away, because you need to focus. Like, they have to kind of make sense together. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna write a Western, and then be like, oh, but the animals are gonna talk. I mean, you could, but like the animals are gonna talk, the horses are gonna talk. I mean, that could be interesting, but like, you kind of gotta keep them together. Like, you could probably do something cool with that. But it's really hard to be like, oh, I'm gonna write a Western, then I'm gonna have spaceships come in. Like, you could do that. Like, that sounds kind of cool, but like, it's kind of hard to like make it. You got to make it make sense a little bit, unless you're writing comedy. If you're writing comedy, then I wouldn't even worry about it. Like, anything but like Terry Pratchett, like he has like a part where they're like on a floating cloud, and in the cloud's like an airplane, and like the wizard guy's like driving the cloud. It's hilarious, and like his stuff, like you can get away with that if you're doing comedy, but no, you're fine, book. I know what you're saying. The thing is, you just gotta pick what kind of adds up with your themes. If you don't know what your theme is when you first start writing, just write, and if things don't make sense, you can always tweak it and come back to it. The thing is, the more you write, the more it'll kind of naturally come to you, like how things fit together with ideas. So don't worry if you have a bunch of ideas. Just try to take ones that excite you the most and put them together. And once you put those ones that excite you the most together, I think you can really make something interesting. As long as you put down the work, because your first draft is never going to be perfect. My philosophy on first drafts is, I don't care about the grammar or anything. If it's like atrocious, nobody's going to read it. It's only me who's going to see this. So just write it. If it doesn't make sense, if this character that wasn't in the beginning of the book shows up out of nowhere, because you need a character there, you can just act like he was there the whole time and then go back and fix it.
I've totally done that. I have definitely had a character that, like, in a later draft, I was like, I need this in here because I now have a plan for this character in a later book of that series. Yeah. So I had to like re-add stuff and retweak things, but that's okay. It's actually, this brings me to a question for you. There are planners, pantsers, and the people in between. I've heard plantser before as a term. I know there are a couple out there. What do you view yourself? Do you plan everything out? Do you just sit down and write and see where the story takes you? Do you do a little bit of both? What do you do? And how do you kind of prep for a new story? Or the story? So,
when I first started writing and taking it seriously, I thought I was a pantser because I hated planning. I was like, I do not want to do this. And I could just never finish anything. And so I decided to kind of pants it, but plan it at the same time. So how I plan my stories, I just sit down and write an outline. I have like, I might have to make a video about it to show you, but like I have a document and I have overview, what the story's about. I have setting, magic, main characters, side characters, minor characters, plot points, and then I have a rough outline where I just sit down and I do like a history book version of this is what happens, this is what they're doing, all the way to, so for this book I wrote 43 pages of, okay, the main character did this happened, they had this conversation, talked about this stuff, and just kind of kept going, and then when I go to write the book, I fill it in, and I have an idea of how the conversations need to go, and what things need to happen, and you do not have to stick to that plan. If something, while you're writing, fits better, do that, because, like I said, you can always edit. There's no rush. Me, I just got really hyper-focused on this book, so that's why I finished it in a year and a half. Like, this was my life. Like, I was just like, okay, at work, okay, what's going to happen next in the book? My coworkers were probably very tired of me talking about it. Like, oh yeah, so this happened in my book. So really just, I'm a pantser planner.
So in between, a little bit in between.
Yes.
Yeah, so
But,
I qualify myself as that in between. So again, I like that term that someone else used. This is not my term, but it was planter. You plant the seed and let it grow. And so a little bit of everything. I like that. I thought that was very charming. But I'm kind of like with you. I do, when I have an idea come in, I pretty much know off the bat the main characters, the main plot points, how many books are in the series, the point of those books, where the end of each books are going to take you, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I kind of loosely hash out, what I'm thinking the best way is to move the characters toward the end goal, but I usually also allow them free enough reign where the story kind of comes alive, which is the really fun part, when the story kind of comes alive and maybe a character writes itself into being, or
an example of that.
Subplots happen, or backstories reveal itself, and you're like, I never knew that. How cool is that? That's fun.
Yeah, I've had that happen with two characters in my book, Vazim and Race. For some reason in the outline, they had like this falling out where they kind of like, one leaves to go off, and then he comes back, asks for help, and they're like fighting each other. And I was like, why are they fighting? And then I started writing the book, and it kind of worked out like they were ex-lovers. And one left because he's a man of violence and he just couldn't live a normal life. And, I didn't know these two were going to be together. It just kind of happened. And, the characters, they just had this story together. And so, they have this whole, subplot in the book where they're trying to rekindle that old flame. But they're grouchy old men and they don't want to admit that both of them were kind of the problem. And I would have never thought I was going to write that until it happened, and characters just kind of write themselves, really.
It's a wonderful thing when that occurs, and it's a lot of fun. And I know I was going to say something, but then I did see a question, and I want to make sure I answer questions, so we'll see if I ever come back to whatever the point was. Anywho, so the question popped to us, what do you think is a good page number for a first-time writer? I'll go off and say, that is entirely up to the writer and what the story demands, because as Robert's first book is, it's a very big, meaty book. And I know other authors that have written 600, 800 page first books. Now, again, that's not for everybody. And also depending on your genre, some people, if you are doing YA, again, that tends to be on the shorter side. Romance, but tends to be, slightly more moderate, shorter side. Epic fantasy does tend to kind of get larger, but there is no, when it comes to indie publishing, can't say trad, but indie publishing, there aren't strict hard rules anymore. So you do what's best for your story and what makes sense. And if you feel like you wrote a book and it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, do it. If you wrote something, you're like, okay, maybe it needs to be tweaked down, do it. If you write something and it's like, mwah, beautiful, perfect.
I do have something to add. I have been doing research into traditional publishing as well, because I do want to do both to get both sides of the same coin. So for traditional books, for epic fantasy, they want it to be around 230 pages. So if you're writing an epic fantasy, you want to try to get it published traditionally, try to shoot for 230 pages. I can't remember how many words that is, but that's the standard for new authors right now. Yeah. And then other genres like romance is a little bit shorter, 130 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just all about what genre you want to write in for traditional. But for, like she was saying, like for self-publishing, you could make the book like 2,000 pages and it's fine. It's all up to you.
Yeah, the
So it
only
just depends on what
downside
you want to do.
Yeah, the only downside of doing the epically big ones, there gets to a point where the printer can't physically print the book. And I did
Yes.
have a friend come. It was going to be a second book. His name's Jason Duro. He's also on here. And when he was putting out a second book, again, he does these very very big, multiple PIV books. It was so large that he had to figure out how to reformat the book to fit all the words in shorter pages, so it could physically print because
Uh,
it extended beyond whatever that page number was. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to break my book up. And so he figured out how to adjust again, trim size and font
yeah.
size to kind of just fit everything in and less pages. So
That
there are
is one
tricks.
thing I want to talk about. So for self-publishing, the thing I've learned with self-publishing is you have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
Unless you want to spend a bunch of money, you have to learn how to format, how to edit. I can't draw very good, but if you want to learn how to draw, you can do that to do your own cover arts. But I would still recommend the cover art is really important. So spend the how much money you got to spend on a cover artist. I do draw, but I'm like I'm not going to put that on the cover. It's not very good. But the thing is, you have to wear many hats. Marketing. You have to get good at pitching with people. Like if you want to go to a bookstore and like set up a booth and hand pitch, you have to learn how to pitch stuff to people. Because I haven't done a booth yet, but I've actually gotten 4 copies of my book in my local bookstore. Um,
Ooh.
um, so you really have to learn how to pitch to people, and it's a whole lot. So don't rush to get your book finished. Take your time, because once you get the book finished, it's like a whole nother ball game because you're only like 20% there. Because now you have to get it to people to want to read it, to want to look at it. So just the first thing is you have to really enjoy your story, because if you don't enjoy it and you don't believe in it, nobody else is going to. So you really just need to believe in your story. Take the time to perfect it, but don't spend too much time on it where you're spending like 6 years. I mean that's okay, but like for what I've learned for self-publishing is you have to be consistent with self-publishing. From what I've heard. Because I've somebody told me that you don't really start picking up until you get your 3rd book out in self-publishing. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I've been hearing.
I think it all's the luck on the draw on the person
Yeah.
because, and that's the hard thing, that's the hard truth, is you can do everything exactly as another author that's succeeded. But you may not get that level of success because there's a bit of luck and there's chance and there's timing and there's so much else that goes into it. But yes, to dedicate that time and to try to find that readership and build out that readership. And sometimes I know people who've done miraculously with a first book. Others are 20 deep and finally saw, success. So it really depends. But more often than not, it's not going to necessarily be your first book. Doesn't mean you don't try.
No, you always try.
Just be aware.
Yes.
Try your hardest. Try your hardest. Now, for you, okay, your what was your title of your book again? Sorry, I'm again half awake.
You're
It's been a
good.
week.
It's called a lot of people can't even say the name, but it's called Adjutant.
Adjutant?
Yeah, Adjutant. There you go. You got it. I thought it was a made up word, but apparently it's in the army. Adjutants are people who deliver messages and stuff, and I didn't know that until after I wrote the book, and I'm like, wow. But that's what the people who have magic in my book, they're called adjutants. And I was like, that sounds kind of dystopian, because at first I thought it was going to be a dystopian story, and then it turned into a Victorian fantasy book.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, books evolve, stories evolve, and that there's a case in point for that. But okay, so actually, going back to your magic systems, you said you have 8 characters and they all have different type of magic. So,
Yes.
and one was the ability to kind of manipulate other people's emotions around that character.
Yes.
So what are some of the other magic systems that people can expect to discover in your book?
I got you. So the magic in my book is based around blood. So they have to use vials, because if you use too much blood, you can lose those powers from overextending yourself. So another power that I really enjoy, there's so many cool ones, but the second one that is really fun for like espionage is they're called Watchers, and they can close their eyes and they're able to see through walls and increase their hearing.
Ooh.
So they can see like certain feet across the wall. So if you're trying to spy on somebody and see what they're doing in another room, you can do that. And you can also hear really, really good. So that's really good for like espionage. Um, the character Evasia, she is a watcher. So she's like a little like sneaky little. She's not a thief, but she's really sneaky, and she can like eavesdrop and like do reconnaissance.
Okay.
There is characters in my book who have all 8 magic abilities called agitators, but they're very rare. And so the main character's sister, she is one of those, but she is very sickly, so she can't use her powers. And the story kicks off with her getting kidnapped. And so the main character trying to rescue his sister, he has to get together these other 7 people to, like, they're all thieves and miscreants, and he has to get together this group to go track her down because his father forbids him from going to save her. I'm not going to spoil anything, but, so that's kind of what it is. And he's like a really, Aru, the main character, I'm going a little bit on the tangent. With the Aru, the main character, he's got really bad social anxiety. He's a big bookworm. He doesn't leave his house. He's a nobleman, so he doesn't have to. He just stays in his room and reads. He's like, I'll just stay in here. And so he has to learn how to stand up to his father, stand up to people, and learn how to become a leader. And the book has very natural character growth. Like, I wanted it to be as natural as they're human. It's a story about being human, really. Even though they have flashy magic, they have all this other stuff. The characters are human. They mess up. They make mistakes. They learn. They regress a little bit, but they're human at the end of the day. So another magic system another magic in my book that is really my favorite is called a specter, and they can manipulate the blood flow in their body to change their shape and their vocal cords to mimic another person.
Ooh, wow.
So they can like sneak around and do stuff like that.
That's neat too. I love that. And some of the magic that you're talking about are things that are either things that they're lesser used, which like blood magic and everything. That it's such fun to hear. Someone trying something that's a little different than what everybody seems to go. We're not dealing with elemental magic. We're dealing with this kind of shape-shifting manipulation, advanced sensory capabilities, which is really neat. I did see a question popping in saying, what is your recommendation for method of publishing? Do you want to take this one first, or should I?
Yes, I will take it. So my recommended method for publishing, so it's all really what you think would be best for you, really. Mm-hmm. Self-publishing is great because you can get your book out quicker to people. They're like traditional and self-publishing both have different pros and cons. Traditional, you get a team to help you. They do the marketing, they do everything, but it's a lot harder. Self-publishing, you're doing all that by yourself. The marketing, the editing, unless you're paying somebody to help you. It's kind of hard to tell you which one you should do. It's really all up to the individual person, what they feel like they want to do. Me personally, I want to do both. So I did self-publishing first, and now I'm taking a little bit of a break on this series because this one is a standalone, and I'm working on a historical horror based in the American Revolution for traditional publishing. So I want to try out both sides of the coin so I can give better advice. But for right now, I would say it's really up to you. I can't be like, you should go self-publishing, because if that's not something your heart's into, it's going to be really hard getting on here every day, and then you're going to get disheartened if you don't really get a lot of people talking about your stuff, because it's something you really want to do, because you can't do self-publishing and then get disheartened and want to give up because you're not getting like that immediate success. Because traditional, you would have a little bit more people hyping you up a little bit because like you have a whole team and they're trying to help you. So I would say it's all what you want to do. I hope that was a good answer.
No, I definitely agree with the whole each writer and even author at that point has to decide what you want out of publishing. And so trad, there's lots of nice things. There's potentials of upfront payment. There's, again, potentials of a group of people, again, marketing for you. Now, just a note, not all trad publishing offers the same level of service. So please be aware of that too. Do your research. But yes. There are a lot of benefits for trad publishing, but you will also make far, far less going trad in the sense of per book. Your amount of your...
Yes.
you make less per book sale, in trad, but you may make a wider number of sales if you have the right team and they hit the right market, and that does help you. When it comes to indie publishing, everything's on your shoulders. And again, we kind of mentioned a little earlier, unless you are fortunate enough to be able to figure out how to pay for people to help with your marketing and help build out your team, which some indie authors are able to do. But outside of that, it is on yourself. So you have to learn a lot of skills and it's a business, run a business. And if you're, like Robert was saying, if you're not super passionate about it, it's a lot. But you can also get huge amount of benefits indie publishing that you wouldn't necessarily see going the other way. So there's pros and cons to it. I'm indie right now. I'm open for if the right book I wanted to kind of query and go trad and become a hybrid author, I'm open to that. But right now I'm happy with indie publishing and learning and playing that game. It's also a game, it feels like. Learning the game of self-publishing. That's where I am right now.
And I think self-publishing is really really good right now, because there's this whole thing going on. I'm not a professional, but what I've gathered from listening, traditional and indie, I feel like indie is going to get a boom because traditional is so stuck in their ways, where they won't let certain things go out, so a lot of LGBTQ stuff can get out there now from self-publishing. A whole lot of different perspectives of different people we can get from self-publishing that maybe traditional people wouldn't let us get. So there's self-publishing, I think, it's a good way to go, but you have to put in the work. But there's so much you can do with self-publishing that you couldn't do with traditional. Mm-hmm. Because at traditional, you kind of have to be fit into a box, sort of oh, you're doing these tropes, you're doing this, you're doing the Sarah J. Maas stuff, or I don't really know that many popular authors right now. I'm kind of stuck in the 90s reading 90s stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You kind of...
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I mean.
And that's true because a lot of people who... I guess maybe I should say a lot, but there are more and more genres and subgenres coming out and becoming and stabilizing because their origin is self-publishing. Case in point, Cozy Fantasy. It was originally an indie author who published an indie book and pretty much coined Cozy Fantasy, of course.
Yeah. Travis Baldree
picked up, and there are others now, and it's becoming an established and recognizable genre. But when it comes to trad, they're very strict on market. They're looking at the market. They're trying to, make the sale, and they're trying to select the right book and the right writer based on their statistics. Indie publishing, you can write what you want, right? And theoretically create a genre, a subgenre that works for you. Now,
yes.
It's hard.
It is.
Not everybody's going to get Travis Baldree's success, but the door is open, so that is kind of cool.
I actually got to talk to Travis Baldree once. We had a little email conversation when I finished his books. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah, I briefly met him at Dragon Con last year, so that was kind of neat too. And I was one of those, can you sign my book? Because I love collecting signed books, and I have a whole setup that I'm doing and building out of signed books from other authors, especially indie authors. But question for us is, how old were we when we first published or first finished writing a book? Because those are two different things.
Yes. You want to take the lead on this one?
Okay, so the first time I ever completely published a book was 2016. It took me 10 years to write that first book, but 4 of those for college. The idea came from me right before I dabbled with a couple early chapters, kind of, sketched out the plot line, went to college. So mind that. But got back, and it was, doing it as a part-time gig, working around my job at the time and figuring out the indie publishing. And at that point I tried to query, very, very bad at querying, did it horribly. Again, everything was done wrong the first time, but it took 10 years. And before I finally physically published my first book. Not everybody's like that. You wrote it in a year and a half and figured out how to publish. So it's nice now for writers, because back in 2016, we didn't have as much of the resources and community, easy access to the book community as I think you have today with other platforms. So if you're starting off today, I think you're going to even start off on a better foot than I did.
You were one of the pioneers. You paved the way.
Oh, I feel like so old now.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. So I published my first book when I was 20. I just like turned 21 like in June. Um, so it took me a year and a half, and I decided to just go with Kindle, KDP Publishing. I figured that would be the best since my mom works for Amazon. I'm like I kind of get an insider scoop.
Hey, that's nice.
So like if anything went wrong, she could probably help me fix it. Um, so I was like, Amazon seems good, and I was like, it's got good stuff like to get it out there and stuff. Like, hold on, I just lost my train of thought. But I published my first, so about like 4 months ago, I think I published this book.
Exciting.
Yes, it was really cool. I think I've sold so far like 35 copies.
Hey, like I said, you started off far better than I did because 2 years crickets because I didn't know what the heck to do. So that.
Thank you, Cryptrix.
Yeah.
No, Paper Crane. Um, I just lost my whole train of thought. I'm trying to think of what I was saying.
It's okay. And actually, talking about KDP and everything, that's also how I started. I'm now moving from exclusive through Amazon, which I've done for a while, because for pretty much, I don't know if anything else is better than it at the moment of the percentage of income that we get off each sale. Amazon does very, very well outside of direct sales. So I've been moving to direct sales, still have my stuff, available through Amazon, just not KDP anymore for the ebooks, etc. And hoping to move it wide in the next little bit. And that's just my transition. But for you, let me make sure I ask, because I always want to ask a few of these questions in the future, because this platform usually is nice for me. Sometimes it's not, but if it allows me to be able to repurpose this and upload it onto my YouTube channel, I want to make sure I have all your contact and information down below, Robert. But with that said, where can people get your book? I mean, I know you mentioned KDP, but what formats is it available in, like hardcover, paperback, audiobook, ebook, and where can people find your book? So
my book right now you can find on Amazon. I do also have a website where you can get signed copies, but I only got like 2 signed copies right now, so it's kind of out of stock. My link in my bio can take you there. It'll take you to my website and my Amazon page, so you can get it for free on Kindle Unlimited if you have that. And I also have a paperback. I do plan on doing a hardcover, like a special edition hardcover you can buy on there too, with like some interior art, but that's something in the works. And I am trying to figure out getting an audiobook, but I'm like, how do you do this? So I'm trying to research audiobooks, but I do want to have an audiobook for this book for people, since it is a really big book, so you could have it in the background while you're working. Cause, I think audiobooks are very, very popular right now, since life is very busy for many people. And if you can get an audiobook and have people be able to listen to it while they're doing stuff, that would really help as well. So I think having all 3 is perfect. Is like a perfect combination: paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And I think after you get that, you're available on all markets, so you have a better chance to be seen and to be heard.
Yeah, and I saw the question about hardcover or paperback. And if you're doing it, if you're questioning like what is best for an author to release their book, as you were saying, Robert, as long as you have at least a paperback as a physical copy, that's great. Now, obviously, they're going to be hardcover people. There's always going to be a person who wants their format. And hardcover is lovely and everything, but it is more expensive, and there's a little different kind of formatting, especially if you're doing a hardcover release with a dust jacket. I have hardcovers; they don't have dust jacket; they're printed directly. The images are printed directly on the covers, but I go through Amazon's print house for that at the moment. But and as you mentioned, audiobooks are fantastic because not only are there the people who only are able to find time to read by listening between, driving home or, between chores or et cetera, so on. There are people who are handicapped, where if anybody has sight impairment and can't see very well, audiobooks are a great way for them to enjoy literature, because not when was the last time someone has seen a Braille book? Let's be real. Audiobooks are the way. Exactly.
Maybe when I was a kid.
For people to who have some kind of sight impediment to be able to read and enjoy as well. So being able to make that next step is great. It is probably the most expensive format you can produce, though. And
yes, but it is worth it. But it is definitely worth it, I think.
Yes,
Because
I
you can also
agree.
listen to your book and be like, I wrote this.
Yes, yes, and it's one of those things. But yeah, as long as you have a paperback available
In the ebook. In the
in
ebook.
the ebook, and well, yeah, I was saying for the physical copies, I would say
Yeah, okay, gosh. I was like, make sure you have an ebook. That's very important.
then then you can expand to hardcover, which is what I did. But yeah, ebooks are very popular. Make sure you have that available, and then if you're able to financially figure out how to wrangle an audiobook, fantastic.
Yes.
But it's not a make or break, but it is a nice thing to have. It is. Now, I also want to ask you, where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk? As in, you kind of mentioned some of these before, but do you have your own website? Do you have a newsletter? Are you on any other kind of platforms, social media wise, outside of Book Talk that people can find and follow? And
Fine. I've been trying to set up a newsletter, but I've been a little busy. Newsletter on my website is coming soon. I also have an Instagram where you can find me there. So I have a website and Instagram, and you can find me there, and a Twitter, but I don't really, well, X, but I don't really use it that much.
it's okay.
And all the links to everything is in my bio.
Good to know. Yeah, no, for me, X is the one I'm kind of least active on. I have one.
Me too.
It's there. It exists. It perpetuates itself. Whatever. It's there, but it's not one I hub on. I will.
Yeah.
But there are authors who love it. So again, if you are a writer and you're trying to figure out stuff, where do you like to be on, social media? And then maybe start there for you as a platform, to step up. Because if you like being on Book Talk, great. Start there. If you prefer Facebook or Instagram, maybe that's where you want to start. But start out where you like to be. So that's always good.
I think Book Talk on TikTok is a fantastic place to start because it's such a loving community. Everybody's really cool, and you can make really cool friends from being here. Like, I made a ton of friends like I wouldn't have if I had never published my book or started joining Book Talk. Like, it's also not even just getting published. You get to meet people. You get to learn new things. You get to just talk to people, and it's great to be able to do that. So Book Talk is a good place to start. I would recommend Book Talk because you can use the hashtags and stuff. I found that I had more success on Book Talk than I've had anywhere else because, like, Book Talk, it pushes videos and stuff you can see. And so Book Talk, I think, is a good place to start. And Instagram Talk. No, not Instagram Talk. Whatever it's called for Instagram, the Instagram Book Talk, basically.
Yeah,
That's a good place to start, too. I can't remember what it's called.
Bookstagram.
Bookstagram, yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, they all have their own. It's the lingo we have to learn as authors. And I saw someone the other day have and I think it was a little more slanted to the romance side of writing, but they were talking about like author lingo and all these kind of, FMC and all these kind of lingos that as just a base reader, you might have heard about, maybe you never processed, or maybe you didn't know about, but as an author, you're like, oh yeah, we kind of have our own language.
Like romantasy and stuff like that.
Yep, exactly. So, okay, for your book that you're hoping to kind of query, where did that kind of inspiration come from? Because that's very different from your Victorian fantasy. You're doing a horror set in what era of history?
American Revolution.
American Revolution.
It's The Walking Dead meets the American Revolution, basically. I wanted to do zombies. I loved zombies as a kid, and I'm like, I was watching Outlander with my fiance, and I'm like, they were battling, like, the Redcoats, and I'm like, the Redcoats are always the bad guys. What if they're the good guys, and they're fighting zombies? But they end up becoming the bad guys anyway. But I'm like, what if they're fighting zombies during the American Revolution? So we have this time of chaos, and people think people are just losing their minds. So they're like, they don't know that, they don't have good modern medicine, so they don't know what's going on with these people. They think they're just heat stroke or they're getting sick. And it's, I'm like, I've never seen anything like this besides Pride and Prejudice zombies. That's the only thing I've seen in that era. I'm like, we got all this stuff we could do with zombies, and I'm like, nobody's doing it. It's just always modern day. And I'm like, well, I've been getting into history for some reason lately, and I'm basing it off of the Philadelphia campaign, where General Howe chases George Washington, like Brandy Run Creek, and then after that he goes to Valley Forge. So you know Valley Forge. You probably know if you know American history. So I'm like, what if that was there? We follow historical figures, but there's zombies. I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. And I've noticed that there's a market for historical fiction, and I'm like, I want to try this because I know it won't be like 600 pages, and there's only one point of view character. So we follow a young British captain who just got command of a regiment, and he's trying to keep everything together. And I'm thinking it's going to be about 360 pages. So I think that could be more accessible to traditional because it's not this spiraling epic from an author you've never heard about. It's something kind of more condensed. I do have a plan for it to be a trilogy, but it can work as a standalone. I love trilogies, if you can't tell. This is my first book series is going to be a trilogy as well. If I keep going with this massive book. So I figured I needed a breather I spent a year and a half working on this book, and I wanted something a little bit more smaller in scope for a palate cleanser. Because after I finished this, I dived right into book 2, working on that. And I was like, I need a little bit of a breather because I've been working on this book been working in this world for almost 2 years now. I love it, but I need a little bit of a palate cleanser to work on something different, to take a little bit of a break. So something shorter, I'm hoping won't take me a year and a half, but I just think a palate cleanser would be good.
Oh, and I'm glad you used that term, palate cleanser, because I've been using that too. That's what I'm working on right now. I just started a palate cleanser book, and it was because I've been working through a series and been hashing my way through the 6th book. Sorry, if my dog knocks this ring light over, he just sprawled dangerously close to it on the floor. And thank you, Odin. But I just got stuck in this rut of this kind of planning, and my book wasn't moving the way I wanted to move, and I was struggling writing the words down, and I was like, you know what? This is a sign. I need to back away from this for a little bit. And so picked up this other one that is a story that I've been wanting to write for a while. And because it's fun, it's going to be a little shorter, it's a retelling, so it's kind of like the outline's essentially already there. Yeah. It's been really quick to kind of start getting into it, which is nice. I'm like, refreshing. Makes me feel good when I'm stuck in a rut. And I did see a question pop up a little bit ago saying, what do you think is the best time of year to publish? Towards Christmas or summer? And that is a good question. Do you want to have your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, I will try. It's not very much. Honestly, I don't have much experience in knowing when to publish. Like I said, this is my first time publishing. I just kind of was like, okay, I'm ready to put it out. So I put it out in like May. It was like May 15th the book came out. I would say maybe Christmas if I'm thinking about it, because then people might, let's pick this up, and maybe they'll like it as a gift for somebody. Maybe that could work in Christmas. So like people would like gift your book to somebody for like the holidays. So maybe Christmas. I'll let you pick now. I didn't really have much of a.
I wish I knew how the publishing year worked, and I don't know. I'm sure there are trends, especially times a year and just the general populace's mentality. Like if you're on vacation in summer, don't you want a summer read or something? So I'm assuming there is some kind of trend. I don't know the statistics or the information to advise, yes, there is for sure or not. But theoretically, what I can say is if you are publishing, doesn't matter any time of year, and you have a book that works well for marketing, maybe you have something that you could tie into a holiday, market with that holiday. You don't necessarily have to publish right around that holiday, but I know authors that have written shorter either novellas or stuff tying into their book universe that have a little bit like, here's their Christmas twist and here's their, another holiday twist. And it's great then to jump on that marketing bandwagon. And yes, around the holidays, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to buy gifts. So if you market it as a gift, that's probably going to spike your sales. Again, doesn't necessarily mean publishing right then or not, but if you have it, use that as a marketing benefit, but be aware that everybody else is trying to also market for the holidays too. So
yes, they will. Definitely will.
If you have a light and breezy summer read, definitely market it towards the summer and just make sure people are like, hey, if you're looking for a great book to read on the beach, I wrote that story for you. Great. For me, my works aren't really focused on a holiday or anything like that, so I don't get that extra benefit. But I've kind of published throughout the year, and I think I've seen, the only thing to note for me personally is I usually see a lull in January, maybe early February, and I think it's because everybody's kind of shopped out from the holidays. So if you kind of, maybe avoid the earliest months of the year, I think you're probably pretty good. But that's all I can say. And again, no stats to prove it, just personal experience.
Yeah. So they have another good question that I saw. Says, do you prefer to read slash write third person stories or first person? So what I've done, I've written stories in every single POV you can to see which one I like. First person is nice, but it's probably my least favorite. I like third person narratives, third person limited, where it's not like Dune where you see what other person's thinking. It's you know what your character's thinking,
Hmm.
so you're just following them. So I really prefer third person limited. I think that's what I write the best in. But I do like to experiment, trying first person, trying past like different kinds of like writing. Because I also write screenplays and stuff like that to for fun. Um, I've also tried to write musicals, but I'm not very musically inclined. So
Fair enough.
I think experimenting is the best, but third person limited for me is my favorite.
And
Um,
that's the thing is, especially again the benefits, and I can only speak about the benefits of indie author because I am an indie author and that's what I know. But nice thing of being an indie author is if you want to play around with a new book and a new work, then try something new. And I do that a lot in the form of either short stories and now a couple of my independent works because up until now I've been doing long epic series. But I've started to just dabble with new things, and up until well, everything I've published to date has been third person limited. I like that. That makes me feel very comfortable. But I have works that are in various stages of editing or on my sleeping shelf at the moment that I've completed, but they're just sleeping, hibernating for a moment, as some other authors say. And that's when I'm starting to challenge myself to do multiple PIVs. I have a short story where I wrote in first person, decided that was hard. That was hard. I don't know if I'm really comfortable with that, but it ultimately comes up to what you like as a writer and what you feel comfortable with. What you read also kind of reflect it. Like a lot of stuff I read is third person. Other people, I've noticed that there is a kind of a correlation between if they read a lot of first person and they
you'll
write.
write first person.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
whatever you feel comfortable with. There is
It's,
no one right or wrong answer.
no, there's not. Because you could write a whole book like it's a history book, and somebody's gonna like that. Like how the what's it called? Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin is basically a history book. Like oh, this happened, this person did this, and people like that, and so you can kind of experiment and do what you like because people's tastes are subjective. So something somebody else might like, somebody might love. It's
Mhm.
all about if just doing it and seeing what happens.
Yeah, there's a book, and I can't remember the author's name, but I'm pretty sure the title was A Natural History of Dragons, and it was written kind of like a biography or someone's journal, essentially, kind of biography, and it was just a very different way to tell a story, but people loved it. World War Z. It was a bunch of news reports compiled together to tell this epic tale. If anybody's read the World War Z book, it's just a very different way of telling a story. And you can play around, be creative, have fun with it. It's great. Writing's fun.
Yeah, because there's no rules really. There might be rules, but like you can do anything. Like it doesn't matter. Just do it. Like you never know what happens.
Yep. With the
Like
cadence of as soon as you assign a rule to your world or magic system, then you're kind of stuck.
yeah. I had to follow my rules.
Yeah, follow
Uh,
your own rules. Don't break the
like
rules.
yeah, it's like oh, he can't just summon fire because there is another. I'm gonna give you a little bit more sneak peek. There is another magic system where they can control the how fast their blood moves, and so they can speed up time for themselves and move really quickly. So they can like dodge really fast, like Neo from the Matrix. Um, and then there is another one where they can control gravity with like their blood, so they can like throw themselves up in the air and fly, basically.
Wow.
Don't ask me how the science behind that works, but it works.
But it does, trust him. Yes, I love that.
Yes.
That is fantastic. Now, actually, since the hour is sped on by, I have to make sure I do my final question, and my final question or comment thing is for anybody listening, including you, Robert, if there's any topics you wanted to cover that we didn't cover, any questions you wanted to ask that you didn't ask, or any announcements you wanted to make that you haven't made yet, this is the time, and goes for anybody listening as well.
Okay. I do have a quick announcement. I have my soon my ebook is going to go drop down price to free for everybody if they want to pick up a copy. Right now it's $2.99 if you want to check out my book, or if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can check it out for free. And then another question I had for a topic maybe later is marketing, self-publishing for because I'm trying to market better, get better at marketing self-publishing. If like there's anybody had any like tips or anything about that.
Yeah, because that's I think one of the biggest struggles for most authors that are indie is how the heck do you sell your own book?
Yes.
It should be easy. You wrote this thing, you know it, and yet it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, it's little by little. I wish I could say I've had sweeping success. I have not, but little by little, trying new things. I know for me, one of the biggest changes that I did recently was making the step to start selling direct. And because that cuts out the theoretical middleman, and it also allows you as an author to be able to offer your books at the price you want. Um, you could do special deals. You can write in personalized notes. You can do a lot of these kind of intimate things for readers. And I've seen a lot of readers super willing to support authors directly now that it's becoming more and more well known that direct helps benefit the authors the most. And so readers, especially those who already like your work, but even some that may have never read you before, really want to support indie authors in the author community. So I thought that was a neat thing, realizing how many people were willing to, take the chance on my book because now I have direct sales. But as far as marketing, you kind of have to try lots of things. Something that works for one person is not going to work for another. I just started running Facebook ads, but pointing them directly to my website, which is something I've never done before. I've yet to see if this is going to benefit or if I'm going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah. It's very much gamble.
So test things, constantly challenge yourself, constantly learn. You never know. But another thing, marketing wise, I guess I could say that I truly believe in. I haven't had, again, the huge sweeping success of other people, but it's running Kickstarters for either launches I have some friends who have done super successful stuff trying to fundraise to produce an audiobook. And because audiobooks are expensive, and they've run a Kickstarter just specifically so the money they earn can help them turn into an audiobook and help them pay for that. So something like that, or special releases, as you were talking about potential hardcovers with all these kind of things. Well, that costs money. Paying for character artists costs money. And so there are more and more authors taking advantage on the Kickstarter platform to allow them to launch books, launch special releases, launch limited editions. And I do think that's a good thing for authors to utilize and take advantage of if they have the time to learn.
Yes.
Another thing.
And the funds. You have to have the funds.
And the funds. Well, the Kickstarter is supposed to theoretically.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, theoretically.
Yes. I'm trying to think if there's any last minute thing. Could I give a quick pitch for my book?
Oh, yeah.
Because I probably should have done that earlier, but so here's the cover for anybody who wants to see. It's kind of it's kind of like mirrored, but so here's the cover, the side and the back. So the book, so how I pitch it is, it's a book about a young man whose home's attacked, his sister's kidnapped, and he has to get together a group of thieves and miscreants to track her down. All the while, the city is one spark away from revolution. It's if Game of Thrones and Marvel had a baby, you'd get this book.
I love that. I need to work on my elevator pitches because I talk a lot. So they're not
It's so hard to get short and sweet.
I'm sorry, guys. I need to work on a snappy response, and that was great. I love that. And I had two other questions pop in, and we'll try to answer them before we wrap up. One was, what defines an indie author as an indie author to us? So do you have what is your definition?
So an indie author is somebody who just, you write your books and you put them out. As long as you're putting them out, you're an indie author, really. Like, you don't have to be a certain type of way as long as you're being you and being authentic and just being yourself and putting out your books and wanting to share your stories for people to read, I think you're an indie author.
Yeah, and by definition, there's indie authors are authors that release their books through means that aren't the traditional publishing houses. So
Yes.
when you're the one who's taking control of the publishing from A to Z, that kind of makes you an indie author. If you go through a house, big publishing house or one of the big imprints, that makes you trad. And that is like the biggest distinction. Obviously, there's a lot of other things. If you do trad, there's a lot more expectations and rigidness, but there's also a lot of benefits, as we kind of mentioned earlier. There's pros and cons of both sides, but indie authors or anybody who publishes your own work, we own our own publishing houses, we own our own imprints, you hire out and you get the cover designers, unless you're very, very talented and can do your own covers. You do it all.
Yes.
And good luck. No.
Yes, good luck.
But it takes a lot of work and effort and dedication as well. Now, what genres do we write? We had someone jump in towards the end and was asking about genre. So, what genre is your first book, and what genre is your upcoming work? I'll let you start that.
Thank you. So Adjutant is it's sort of dark fantasy. So dark fantasy Victorian. So Victorian dark fantasy. Slightly grimdark, but not really. It's like kind of got grimdark to it, but and for my next book, it is historical fiction horror. So it does have a title. It's called The Plague of 1777. So it's very mystery horror. So I like writing mystery horror and epic wars. So like I like battles. My book has this book has a 200-page final battle. I write a lot of stuff like that. What about you?
I will go on mine, and I'm going to keep the question right in front of me so I can remember to come back to it. But sorry, my head goes 1,000 miles a minute, and I love coming up with like fun little weird things for authors to do, because why not? So thinking of your upcoming book, if you traditionally publish, then you may not need this. If you decide to end up going back and doing it through indie down the line, all I can see is if you did like, sent out direct sale books, coming up with like a bookmark with like a strip of red cloth, because the red shirts, and you could like have like the little cloth with, I don't know how, I was just like, being a zombie book, maybe like the fake blood or something, like just a little bookmark of like a patch.
That's so cool.
I don't know, I thought that would be kind of cool, but sorry, popped in my head. But
that's an awesome idea. I like that. I'm going to write that down like right now. I'm stealing it, trademarked, but
it's just a weird thing. Use it as a bookmark. They'll be like, why did I get the strip of cloth? It's a bookmark.
It's a bookmark. Trust me, it works.
But yeah, as far as genres that I write, I qualify myself as kind of the umbrella of epic fantasy. I do second world fantasy, various means, usually first person limited, as we kind of talked about. But as far as subgenres, it all depends on the series. My debut series, which is a 4-book series that starts with Asara's Claws. The series itself is called the Incarn Saga. You're not going to remember any of this. I know, I'm sorry. But it's a dark fantasy, a war-based dark fantasy set in a kingdom on the verge of war, where shapeshifters and humans have to decide if they can push aside their differences in order to fend off a larger threat. And so, again, new adult, grittier, lots of action, lots of battle scenes in that one. My adult series are novellas, so short reads. They're dark retellings of Norse mythology, so Vikings meets dark fantasy. They do dabble and dance pretty tightly with grimdark at times. So bring a tissue if you are a person that gets sensitive when your favorite character doesn't make it. Pre-warning on that one. But that's called The Guardian Speaker, and the volumes go in order 1, 2, 3, etc., so on. And the final 3 will be released this year, so that whole series will be wrapped up. That's my goal. And then my third series I have at the moment is young adult, adventure and action-based epic fantasy. It also goes in categories of noble bright, portal fantasy. Again, young adult, clean fantasy. It's the light and bright, positive, fun stuff. Think a little more Tolkien-like, and lots of adventure, lots of jumping through into new magical realms. And it's just fun. It's fun. But it starts on the younger side of YA, so be aware.
That's a really good pitch. You did so good. I was like, wow, I'm impressed. I have to check out. I have to check all of them out now. I've been meaning to. They sound great. I just needed that pitch.
Well, thank you. And I did note the comment saying my first novel, which I just put on Amazon, is dystopian fantasy. Congratulations on your first novel, Lion.
Congrats. It's always awesome getting out there and publishing.
Yes, it is. It's a wonderful thing in that, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but a lot of people seem to agree, is that first time you hold your book baby. because they're my book babies. The first time you hold your book, it's such a weird, surreal feeling. So that's a cool thing.
I almost cried. I was like, oh, my book. I've always dreamed about having it in my hand since I've been writing since I was in 5th grade. So it's like I was like, finally, I get to hold a copy of something I've written physically.
It's real. It's here.
Yes.
And but yes, Nicole said his child. Yes, it's a book. I call them book babies, but yeah, they're your babies. They're your children. And you become very defensive over them, especially earlier on as first-time parents, because it's a whole thing. And then after writing a few of them, you know, your later kids, you're kind of like, it's okay. You know, let them scrape their knees a little bit.
Yeah.
It is a thing. It is a thing. That's just my thing, baby.
It was so hard to send out the signed copies. I'm like, I'm never gonna see them again. No. But it's nice.
It's hard to let them spread their wings or books, fine. I don't know, weird. Anywho, I went off on the
spreading their pages. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's loop this one around. Anywho, as I'm reached the end of the hour and I have to move on to editing other works. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this afternoon, Robert. And if you ever want to do one of these again, let me know. Again, I do them weekly, plan in advance. I am a planner.
Yes. I would love to do another one. I've really enjoyed this, getting to talk with you. I was really nervous at first, but it was awesome to really just sit here and talk. And you're very lovely, and I really appreciate this. Thank you. I would definitely love to do this again.
Yeah, especially, I'll be curious to find out how your next book in the works, ends up and which way you ended up publishing. And hopefully, you get an exceptional, amazing deal since you want to go query. That's the goal. We want always successes for all the authors. But yeah, thank you for everybody who's coming out and hang out, be it a poet. I see we have poets listening, authors of all sorts, writers. It's fantastic. I love the book community. And I will be back next week with another one of these. Thank you for hanging out, everyone. Thank you, Robert.
Yes, thank you. Bye.